Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. This is me, your host, Preacher Moss, the host of the ShOUT Show, the SOS. This is our Throwback Thursday, brothers and sisters, and boy, we have an amazing Throwback Thursday. Every once in a while, I like to pick an era of music. And this era of music that I chose for today is really the conscious era of music. This is Black Medallions, Black Fists, this is dashikis, this is skull caps, this is of course, the era of black consciousness, black political rap, the era of Paris, the era of Big Daddy Kane, Break, Burn, Hollywood, Burn, Ice Cube, and of course, it is the era of Flavor Flav, Chuck D, Hank Shocklee, Terminator X, and the Bomb Squad. Today, we're talking Public Enemy. Do you know the songs, brothers and sisters? Yo Bum Rush the show. It takes a nation of millions of Hold Us Back, Rebel Without a Pause, Night of the Living Bassheads. Don't believe the hype. Brothers and sisters, I had to throw that out there because it defined the era of rap. Even more importantly, brothers and sisters, there are men who are grown men now who found Public Enemy just as influential as the autobiography of Malcolm X. Think about that for a minute. A collective group of artists, not just a rapper, but a philosopher, a political thinker, an intellectual, his sidekick, the gesture, the court gesture of Flavor Flav, who, brothers and sisters, is an extremely intelligent man. Despite whatever his troubles are, because sometimes, troubles flow closely to genius, if you will. Like you can be so far in a situation that you lose yourself. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the positioning of music. One of my favorite songs. If Jabril Howe was on here right now, he'd lose his mind. But one of my favorite songs is Fight the Power, which was the soundtrack not only to Do the Right Thing, but it was the soundtrack to our summer, brothers and sisters. A hot summer, because in 88, 89, things were popping off. The idea of Black Power scared everybody. And now you put it to an infectious beat that was not only infectious, but it gave you cuts and grooves and screams and framed the song around the lyrics coming, roaming out of the voice of Chuck D. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, this is something we don't want to miss. These were superheroes. I want to say they were the first rap superheroes. Don't get me wrong, I love Sugar Hill Gang and I love Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. Of course, they gave us the message, but brothers and sisters, after the message in white lines, you had Public Enemy. Perhaps amongst the most influential groups to come out of the African American community. Now, I don't want you guys to sleep because we're going to talk about it. Whatever happened to groups like Public Enemy? Why don't we have more? In times of trouble, in times of turmoil, what rap groups or rap acts are actually putting on a cape and flying in to work with the Black community to empower, uplift, and educate the Black community? They were responsible for songs like By the Time I Get to Phoenix, which dealt with the fact that the state of Arizona did not want to recognize a holiday for Martin Luther King as a national holiday. They led with pressure, creativity, and let's be honest, brothers and sisters, some years later, when I thought about doing All That Made Me Funny, I looked at that example. I looked at the dedication. And here's something you may not realize. They were a group. They were a group, a super group. And in that era, of course, you had the Beastie Boys, you had NWA, you had all these groups, but they reigned supreme. So we're going to have a little fun with that on today on Throwback Thursday, if you will. So dust off those old 33 and the thirds and the old CDs if you have them, and pick up your Chuck D hat with the black silhouette in the scope and the rifle scope, and get your big clocks, everybody, because we're going to have a good time today. We're going to talk about the countercultural for significance and phenomenon of Public Enemy. Let's get this show started. Boy! We're back. Thank you guys for hanging in there. Let's go and get this business out of the way. If you're here on the Shout Out Show platform for the first time, we thank you. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. And we hope you're a part of our program here forever the next 25, 30 minutes. We hope you stick with us and you contribute, if you will. You let us know some of your ideas, some of your values. The subject today, we're talking about Public Enemy, you dig? And when I say Public Enemy, I'm talking about not just a group. I'm talking about a group that gave referendums, a group that gave not only referendums on white supremacy, but I also talked about where's the level of Black intelligence, the level of Black intellect in our own communities. They talked about drugs. They talked about drugs. They talked about don't be hype. Talking about the media. They talked about all of these things. You know, they were amongst the first groups to actually put clips, Minister Louis Farrakhan on their albums. I mean, if you really want to understand what the phenomenon was, particularly leading up to the Million Man March, these guys tied us into this whole idea of religious expression as well. While it wasn't necessarily in the music, it's clear that they had a lot of things that were tied into religion. You know, you had all the players. You had Public Enemy. You had Flavor Flav. You had Chuck D. You had Terminator X. You had Hank Shocklee. You had the Bomb Squad. You had Flavor Flav. You had the S1Ws. I mean, it was an amazing thing to watch. So if you're coming on the show for the first time, thank you so much for coming on the show. Jump in the comment section to have something to say. I don't know what's going on, but our subscriptions are blowing up. We're at 168. Hopefully, we're going to get to 170 before the next Ramadan, inshallah. On top of that, brothers and sisters, man, you know, the topics have been fun. Thank you guys for tuning in the last 2 days. We were talking about Karens and what was our topic yesterday? I can't remember. You know, my mind's gone, brothers and sisters. But we talked about Karens yesterday, and we talked about something else. That was good yesterday. I just can't remember. I can't remember. So it is what it is. Satano, what did Satano tell me what it was yesterday? I can't remember. But my point being, brothers and sisters, you know, it was just nice to be able to have this nice flow of things and discussion and things like that, because it is so important, because these conversations really lost. Like, we don't necessarily have these conversations. Just like I'm talking about Public Enemy. They were the last, if you will, super rap group. Beastie Boys and Public Enemy. Public Enemy, alhamdulillah, is still touring, but you know, it's not the normal space it was with Flav and Chuck D. Those things happen, but man, when they were out there and they were on top of it, it was absolutely stunning. All right, so let me go ahead. Let me give a shout out to the stars in the building. I know we got some stars in the building. Let me give a shout out to the stars in the building. First off, we're going to start out with our shout out show family, shout out show soldiers. We got sister Ree. Ree is back from Miami, safely back home in Miami. Like she said, it's good to be home. Good to have you home. Make sure you're getting that rest. So go to Miami, take something out of you. Make sure you hydrate before you go to bed. But we are happy that you're back. And again, we really salute you for going down there and take care of your friend after she had her surgery. That's a blessing. Everybody needs a friend like that. All right, next up. Up top for Rashid, Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down, always on the broadcast. How you doing, brother? I'm going to ask you, Altaf. I know that you are the Canadian ambassador to the show. We appreciate that. What I want to ask you is, across the border, where there wasn't large groups of African Americans, and maybe hip hop wasn't as prevalent, What did you guys think about Public Enemy when you heard them? Was it a thing where you shriek back, or you were like, "Oh, I'm feeling that," or somebody just shook your head? It's just not for me, man. Tell me what you were thinking about Public Enemy. I'm actually going to give you a great Public Enemy story, um, and I'm going to share that. Okay, so okay, next up we got Sister Rabina Chaudhry she's making a guest appearance, a solo appearance. How you doing, Sister Rabina? I know you're going to have something to say about this. We talking about Public Enemy, the group, you dig. We're talking about Chuck D. We're talking about Flavor Flav. We're talking about all of that today. Like I said, they were rap superheroes to me. I know a lot of guys who actually came to the religion of Al Islam through Public Enemy, through some of the clips that will be on the records. Um, Man, Black Steel and Hour KRS is an amazing song. I got a letter from the government the other day. I opened and read it. It said they were suckers. This is a major joint. You know who I remember that song? Why I remember that song? My cousin Earl was going off to he was going in the army. He was in the army. He had to go off to the Gulf War. And he kept singing that song, man. He was totally. I was like, dude, you shouldn't enlist it. I said, but he was amazingly, he was a soldier just waking up to his conscience. All right, Sister Rabina, good to see you. What's going on, little brother? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I know you know about Public Enemy. I know you know about Public Enemy because I know I played it to death, and you probably wanted to beat me with a stick sometimes. I kept playing it over and over because it was just relevant to how I was living life, what I was feeling. Public Enemy was introduced to me at the end of my junior year, 1987, brothers and sisters. 1987. And I'm here to tell you, it changed. Because you know how you listen to rap music, and it was party raps, and you had Big Daddy Kane and da-da-da. You had some conscious rap. You had like YZ. Yo, but when Public Enemy came, they shut it down. All right, big brother. And okay, and by the way, yesterday actually wasn't fishing, mom. It was actually vaccination fascination. It was vaccination. Good show and great comments from the crowd. I appreciate that. And we want to say wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to our consultant producer, Sister Sistana, working the back end ones and twos, make sure the camera's working, the sound is up. We are in for a treat today. Sorry about that, brother. Didn't mean to put my nose in the camera. Just adjusted my microphone because I'm getting a little loud here. So I hope you got. Man, let me fix that. There we go. So let's talk about it. Where were you when you first heard Public Enemy? What song were you listening to? What caught your attention? Was it a CD? Was it an LP? It definitely went an 8-track. But where were you? I'm saying Public Enemy. I was at a friend's house. In fact, it was a white guy. His name was Dave Rule, and he worked at the campus radio station. And he took a copy of the Public Enemy album, and we were all hanging out at somebody's house. He said, "You guys got to hear this." And he put it on, and I was like, because rap was not doing that. I mean, Grandmaster Fashion, Furious 5, the message was a pure song, but, there was a lesson. It was very didactic, meaning that, it was very preachy. But what I appreciated with Public Enemy is it wasn't preachy. It really, really made you make a decision about where you were in your life. That was the best thing. You felt like in the front after you listened to a Public Enemy song, like, oh, I can't believe they talked to me that way. And it was funny because it woke up dead consciousness. Can I say that? It really woke up dead consciousness. And when you would go to the basketball court wanted to say people who encountered Public Enemy music, they just were not the same. If you had anything, and it followed something, a bit of a pattern that I really, really enjoyed because it made me feel like this thing is so connected and rooted in history. Chuck D has talked about this before, but it followed the pattern of the Last Poets and it also part of followed the pattern. Of course, Gil Scott Heron, and then we have this rap iteration of all these facts, of all this knowledge, of being able to, you know, put social justice on wax. It just wasn't happening back then. And even though it was happening back then, you knew the way with gangster rap on the way. It's like it's only a matter of time before it gets taken over. That's the thing about music. And I don't mean to be mean spirited one like that, but we got some people in there. What's going on, there, brother Derek Chase? Public Enemy was the truth back in the day. It was good music, yeah. This is how good Public Enemy was back in the day. When you put on, brothers would stop drinking. They'd be like, they didn't want to drink, and the reason you want to drink is because once you listen to Public Enemy record, you wanted to discuss it. This was discussion music. It's like the new era of discussion music. Like you put a track on, you finish. We used to have like listening parties with the Public Enemy record. Now let me also frame this for you guys too. I was heavily into social justice issues, particularly apartheid. So listening to Public Enemy and tying that into the fact that I was a big fan of Gil Scott Heron, which you guys know, a huge fan of The Last Poets. You know, if you want to really understand Public Enemy, please go listen to Last Poets. Just one song. One song will turn your mind. And the name of the song, pardon the languages, Niggas Are Scared of Revolution. You got to listen to that. And then you'll get a full appreciation of what was happening before. Let me say it, before Public Enemy. Because the thing I also like about Public Enemy is that Chuck D, if you will, is his intellectual because he's in school. And the underground radio scene is interesting because he talked about, hey, man, he had his life figured out after college. It just so happened he becomes prolific and bombastic on a microphone. People keep going, who is this guy? And the raps, the intricacy of the raps, the story, the narratives, to be able to ask a question at the beginning of a rap and answer it at the end, nobody really does that anymore. You know, when you listen to a Public Enemy album and you saw the verbiage and you saw how they were framed, these were fearless black men. Now, it can also be said that, these are young black Muslims, but I'm going to tell you this. I remember seeing, and I said this to my mother, I remember seeing and listening to Public Enemy talk about these issues. Now, this is coming out of the 80s. Now, think about where you're in the 80s, in the early 80s. These are the crack wars. These are the crack wars. And coming out of the crack wars is this clarity that we call Chuck D and his sidekick, who we call Flavor Flav. Because even Flavor Flav, he dropped some dope joints. 911 is a joke. Is that I called 911. I called 911 a long time ago. Can't you see how late they're reacting? I mean, I'm saying that it's poetic. When I say poetic, you know exactly what I mean. It means that people are saying things that are in your spirit that when you hear it, it's like, I'm on a particular wavelength. Can you make music that's metaphysical, if you will? That's metaphysical, is spiritual, but it's also right in your face. Hearing Mr. Louis Farrakhan at the beginning of Fight the Power. Before you get to 1989, the number. What does he say? Yet our best trained, best educated, best equipped, best prepared troops refuse to fight. By the way, it's safe to say that they would rather switch than fight. Let me tell y'all something. When you hear that, that's a man challenging your manhood. He's challenging your black manhood. And then when you hear Elvis was a hero the most, but he never meant to me. I mean, the sucker was straight up and plain. Mother, him, and John Wayne. Woo! Woo! I just played that for my mother today. My mother was like, oh, Lord, have mercy. Jesus. Ooh. But the power of hearing it when you're 19 and 20 It changes the game, brothers and sisters. 1987, I said, I don't know what them brothers are on, but give me two. And it was so clear, you knew it wasn't drugs. You know, when crazy, there was a philosophy, and we all know that the aspect of the group and how things went out with Professor Griff and eventually with Flavor Flav and his problems. But when you set out a plateau that is so high, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I got my man Mark Kennedy on the spot. Hey, Mark, what was your favorite? Your favorite Public Enemy record? Mark is a record producer, a record promoter. You know what I'm talking about. Sister Rabina, you said, I still have my T-shirt from the concert. The beginning of It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back is actually taped in London. The first track off that is taped in London. I'm like, man, where? And so you realize they're in London tearing this up. They're not in Harlem or LA or DC, Atlanta. They're in London, like dropping major knowledge, So, okay, she said Public Enemy for me were the 80s version of the words of the Watts Prophets. Wow. I was at the London College of Fashion and listened to it in the dining room with friends. Yeah, it was table conversation. Like I said, it was 1987, man, and as much as I loved Rakim and Eric B and Rakim, and that flow, I'm gonna tell you something. Chuck D messed up my head, man. Let's say you was right about PE. This man, PE was like Dick Gregory rapping. Let me say that again. PE was like Dick Gregory rapping. And when I say Dick Gregory, they never put out songs where you didn't understand where they stood on the position. Like they never put out songs where you didn't know what choice they had made. And a lot of people put stuff out. Sister Sultana said, fight the power, watch and do the right thing. Hey, man, when George Floyd was killed, I'm going to tell you something. I went back and I watched Fight the Power. I'm not saying it's prolific or prophetic or anything, but I went back and watched Fight the Power. And the beginning with Rosie Perez dancing, you can throw whatever you want to with Rosie Perez dancing and with the boxing gloves. I was like, Spike on something right here. Man, but you could not hear me now. You could not mess around and not hear what was coming out. When the video came out for Fight the Power, people were scared. MTV did not want to air that. Because I'm just saying it's such a show of, it's like a black commitment to, I don't want to say excellence, but I want to say a black commitment to potential. Meaning that we're going to expand this thing. Because you had other guys who came out. You had Paris, you had King's Son, you had Brand Nubian. You had guys like that. You had YZ, you had cats like that. Poor Righteous Teachers, whom I love. I still love. Intelligent Wisdom. I loved all those guys. But let me tell you something. Nobody spoke. And here was the other killer part. This stage show was absolutely bananas. I did a show in DC a while ago. I met a brother. He was alderman here in DC named Cedric Muhammad. And Cedric came to the show. We did the show, and he brought a friend. And one of his friends was a S1W. The S1W would come, and I'm like, I was getting hyped off the S1W. I'm like, why are you getting excited and black men doing drills? You went to military school for 6 years. You've seen this. And I was excited because they made me feel bad. It made me feel good, and it piqued my interest about that whole aspect of just black defense. Can I even say that? Public Enemy, the Public Enemy introduced this whole idea of strategy in music. And no shade to any of the other artists out here, but you don't do it. You really don't do it. Maybe Kendrick Lamar, but Busta Bus reminds us of that. But even Busta Bus is like, I could mess with those guys. In fact, brothers and sisters, Public Enemy, Chuck D, they were the mentors to Busta Rhymes and leaders of the new school. And they made him understand the business. They had to be in shape. Public Enemy, I've never seen a Public Enemy show or Chuck D in a rhyme where he's just out of shape, where his wind isn't right, whether it's on a recording or live. You will not find that, because the brothers introduced the whole idea of fitness and diet and things like that. And it's like, of course, they're living this lifestyle according to the relationship with the Nation of Islam. But here's the deal, though. You're taking it mainstream. You're taking it to other folks. So other people are learning from this process, appreciating this process, and in many regards, they're sharing it. The whole idea of eating, eat to live, Public Enemy actually brought that back for a lot of folks. So let's throw some comments up. Brother Derek said, "Don't believe the hype." I love that one. Now, on my Night of Living Bassheads was an anthem. It was a crack anthem. I don't know how you conceptually come up with that. The video was scary. The video was scary. It was an amazing video, but it was scary. Black Steel, Hour of Chaos, great song, amazing videos. I digress. I did not give them credit for the videos that they made, brothers and sisters. They were amazing, And I'm just talking about the fact that, in some regards, what I really did like about Public Enemy is they were probably one of the few rap groups, if you will, that informed the people as to their condition. When I say inform the people as to their condition, Night of the Living Basshead says that we have a major drug epidemic. Don't believe the hype is so much about media, what the media does to us. I mean, they had a media assassin. His name was Harry Allen. These are not things that you're hearing, brothers and sisters, with other groups. So we have Sister Rabina. Public Enemy's latest album is excellent, and they managed to offend Caitlyn Jenner, aka Bruce. Yeah, thank God. Thank God. I mean, Caitlyn Jenner looks like a really ugly man trying to look like a really ugly woman. That's what it looks like. I know I shouldn't have said that, but you might as well say it. Listen, if you got an Adam's apple as big as a softball, you ain't fooling nobody. Okay. Had to get that out of my system. So here, what we're going to do, brothers and sisters, because we can't actually play their records, because sadly, as much as I love Public Enemy, the truth is I don't think they own their masters. They own the last couple once they got off of the contract, but some of the classics you can't play. And if I could play them, Warner Brothers with Def Jam and everybody owns that content. It's sad. Literally, I'm gonna tell everybody, download everything of Public Enemy that you can, because it'll be a day when somebody goes, we don't want this to get out. And I'm only saying that because when they were on fleek, if you will, there were a lot of people that did not want their children listening to Public Enemy. I remember my Uncle Earl and my cousin Earl, Earl Sr., Earl Jr., and I remember my uncle reciting Public Enemy lyrics about his son going to war. I mean, literally, he's talking about fight the power and all this stuff. And I'm like, where did this come from? I got a letter. Yeah, that man said I got a letter from the government the other day. I was like, wow, you listen to Public Enemy? And there were a lot of people. And here's the cool part. I don't want to overshadow or overlook this. There were a lot of white kids that dug Public Enemy. When I say dug Public Enemy, they came to shows and places. It wasn't white people. They had white people in Detroit shows like Public Enemy. I mean, they were like, we love these guys probably more than you do. Because that music, that information, if you will, it freed their soul. Like it to be liberated in terms of how you think. It's scary. It's inspirational. It's aspirational. But it doesn't happen enough. Right now, music is very predictable. The music that informs us a lot of times is not the music that goes out. I can only think of a couple of albums that have come out. One of the latest ones, Sister Rabina talked about the latest Public Enemy album, which is excellent. I would say I would give some love out of that Public Enemy tree. I would give some love to Busta Rhymes. The Fard Muhammad album was amazing, but it was a concept album, much the same. Public Enemy is one of the few groups, rap groups. Keep in mind the rap groups, because when you say Public Enemy as a rap group, you have to throw the best rap groups in. You put in Beastie Boys, but you got to put in a Tribe Called Quest. You got to put in groups like that, Eric B. and Rakim, and you're talking about like, essentially a generation of music that we don't have anymore. Unless you go catch the oldie show or look at YouTube, we literally don't have it anymore. So shout out to Public Enemy. Shout out to Public Enemy fans. Pump your fist. Put on your favorite Public Enemy record. We got All Talk for the last word here. Public Enemy was definitely enjoyed up here in Canada. The Canadian ambassador has reported to us. He said, now all we have are these rappers with little in front of their name. Sister Rabina said, that's why I still have vinyl. Yes. In case the world ends, keep your vinyl. Keep your vinyl. So, brothers and sisters, that's the end of our show. I wish I could talk a little bit more about Public Enemy, but what am I going to tell you that you don't already know? I could give you a lot of biographical information, but I tried to just lead in with the fact that more so than being a great, amazing rap group, man, they were important. Man, they were important. I mean, they marked periods of my life, brothers and sisters. It's almost like only thing that could be comparable that's not in rap would be like Prince. Prince marked aspects of your life. MJ marked aspects of your life. And Public Enemy in the rap space definitely mark pieces of your life. So listen, let's get to our sponsors. We're going to get out of here. I want to give a shout out. Check out our sponsor, please, BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. If you don't want to go to the website, guess what? You can go retro like vinyl. You can call 1-888-465. 496-6845. I'm sorry about that. Again, that's 1-888-496-6845. Check it out today. That is Maxine B.K. Esquire, who owns that business. Support minority-owned businesses, brothers and sisters. And we also want to give a shout-out to the Islamic Graduate School, better known as Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Brothers and sisters, if you're interested in checking out a quality Islamic graduate education, if you will, that hopefully leads to a graduation, please check them out. I'm talking over a little bit. I'm a little tired, but I'm excited. If you don't mind, I'm excited because, a lot of times when you go on a Throwback Thursday, you're kind of comparing where things were to where they are now. And I'm happy to say that there's no comparison to Public Enemy. And the only thing you can compare them to is the fact that they're still here and they're still out there grinding. All right. So, again, that's Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Go to bayanonline.org. Again, that's bayanonline.org. Until then, brothers and sisters, fight the power. Preacher Moss, it's the SOS. See you tomorrow.
Hey everybody, this is your brother Preacher Moss. Listen, I hope that you enjoyed your shout out show experience. We'll be back with the next show, the next shout out show. A simple ask before you go, please help your brother out. Click that subscribe button, click that notify button, and I'll see you again on this side of the microphone.